welcome to the Ghosts of Harrenhal. My name's Simon.
And I'm Mackelly.
Thank you for joining us for episode 252 of our chapter-by-chapter book review of A Song of Ice and Fire by George Martin. Today we're discussing chapter 26 of A Feast for Crows, that's Samwell 3.
And as always, we're going to chat about the chapter and try not to spoil any future plot points for you. Unless, of course, you have the Buy Me a Coffee tier that includes spoilers, then we will spoil things for you. But regardless, hopefully we'll provide you some entertainment along the way.
We'll summarise what happened, discuss our thoughts on it, provide some useful background, compare it to the television show, indulge in little pedantry, and cover some relevant news and listener correspondence. Be sure to check out the show notes that come with the episode. They'll provide some additional information about the characters and other things of note in this chapter. How are you, sir?
I'm doing all right. We're 1 week into this empty nest thing, and tonight we are as empty. This nest is as empty as it's been in 24 years because Penny's not even here.
Oh, where's Penny?
We took her to Grandma's house. She's doing a long weekend at Grandma's because we're going to go visit Ethan. So
nice.
Penny is not making the flight to go visit Ethan.
No, yeah, I understand. Yes, that makes sense. Okay.
This is something. We're just like...
You're like peas in a drum.
Yeah, exactly. But I just saw on the news yesterday, speaking of going to visit Ethan, that he's accepted a spot in an MBA program at a school in Pittsburgh, and there is a famous celebrity and his slightly less famous wife's daughter that is starting there as a freshman this week.
Both the guy and his stepdaughter are both in the MBA class.
No. I'm saying at that college, starting as a freshman at that college, is a very famous celebrity and his slightly less famous wife's daughter, their daughter.
Okay.
I won't tell you who the celebrity is, but you could probably figure it out. It wouldn't be a Mission Impossible.
Oh, that's exciting.
So, yeah, the paparazzi was all around the school this
how cool.
weekend.
If it's the child I'm thinking it is, I am horrified by how old I am.
I know.
It feels like it was born like 4 years ago. How is that possible?
Yeah, I know, right? I feel that way about my son, who's...
Well, presumably, yes, you do. Yes, that makes a lot of sense. I have very little news for you. Nothing's really happening in my life, but I have two very bad jokes for you.
Oh, yes. Who doesn't love a good bad joke?
I know, right? Well, one is slightly bad news, actually. I got let go from my side gig as an exam grader. I don't know why, because I always gave 110%.
Wait, it's started to get an idea of what the issue might have been.
And the other one is, so the citizens of Bilbao in Spain decided to try and break the world record for the most people in a movie theatre.
Okay.
They got going at it, but the manager of the movie theatre got a little bit antsy because there was only one emergency escape. And so eventually he put the kibosh on it. He said, no, we can't do this. You have to stop. He said, because I can't have too many Basques in one exit.
Yeah.
I love that joke.
Yes, who doesn't love a good bad joke?
That one pleases me a lot.
Yes, I could tell. Yeah, you're very excited to tell that one. Do you remember when there was a flight 666 going to Helsinki? And
no, that's awesome.
Flight 666 to hell.
To hell? Nice.
Yes.
I like that.
I made some joke about how air travel is significantly safer than travel by basket. Going to hell in a handbasket.
Very good. Well done.
I think in my joke I said handbasket. It made way more sense than what I was...
I thought you were referring back to the basket up to the Erie.
That was what made me think of... Your joke is what made me think of that, about eggs in a
I
basket.
told you about my flying into Helsinki. I flew into Helsinki one time, and I'd never had this before, but the plane had a camera mounted on the nose, and on your seat back thingy, you could watch the approach from like the
Oh,
pilot's eye view. It was really cool.
yeah, as long as everything goes okay, that's pretty cool.
And that was the joke I told to the guy next to me. I was like, it'd be funny if we were coming in like a hurricane and they decided they would show like sort of like stock footage on this. The plane's bucking like a bronco. But me seeing like, very straight.
Beautiful, calm day. Nothing to worry about.
Those palm trees look nice. I didn't know Helsinki was like this. Well, anyway, let's get down to business. How did we leave Samwell Tarly? Last we saw of Sam, he was seasick aboard the Blackbird as it headed across the narrow sea towards Braavos. He's figured out, with Aemon's help, of course, why Gilly is inconsolable, the whole switching of the babies. And he's annoyed by his brother Dareon for complaining about Gilly being upset. Mackelly, why don't we give the summary of this one? I've just realised, having read that feels a lot like the summary of this chapter too. But anyway, let's keep going. Not that much progress is going to be made, I feel.
And I believe this one comes right on the heels of a Brienne chapter, like the last one, if I'm not mistaken.
That's true. Brienne literally backtracked. If Sam got back to the wall in this chapter.
Well, anyway, Sam and company are staying at an inn in Braavos. Gilly is red-eyed and disheveled, as she was last chapter. Dareon is absent and presumed drunk, which is different from last chapter.
He found some drink, yeah.
Yeah, he had somewhere to go other than being stuck on a ship, I guess. And Maester Aemon is barely this side of catatonic, sadly. Sam's run out of money, and they can afford neither fire nor food. Gilly understands Dareon's absence. He'd rather be where happy people are. Night is falling, and therefore Dareon won't be coming home. After dark, the city belongs to the Braavos and the courtesans.
Dareon is in the dark as to Gilly's mood, and consequently entirely unsympathetic. Sam wonders when Jon's heart turned to stone, and Aemon explains that it was when Sam orchestrated his elevation to Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. The Titan sounds nightfall, disturbing both the baby and Maester Aemon. The latter calls out for his brother Egg, but only Sam can comfort him. Aemon's senses return, and he insists, not for the first time, that they visit the ships. He's too weak, and Sam cannot think of a reason to anyway.
On the morrow, Sam tells him, we'll find a ship to Oldtown. Aemon dreamed about Oldtown, sitting in the sun with Egg and his big knight. Aemon refuses food, and Sam wonders how he's going to regain his strength. Everyone else's appetite has returned once the crossing was over, but not the old man's. All he takes is boiled canal water. Gilly tried to gather fresh water from the public fountains, but she got lost in the city. She's only ever known Crasters and so was overwhelmed.
Aemon wants Sam to bring a sailor back who's seen the dragons. The story reached them courtesy of Dareon. Sam doesn't trust it. Aemon has more languages, so he should go when he's better. But Aemon knows that he's dying and he won't see Oldtown, so he needs Sam to learn for him. He claims to remember dragons, the glory and grief of his house, but Sam contends that they died out before Aemon was born, but Aemon insists that he dreams of them. His brothers dreamed of them too, but their dreams killed them. We tremble on the cusp of half-remembered prophecies, terrors and wonders that no man living could hope to comprehend.
Sam agrees to go to the docks. On those inspiring words. As a child, he'd read and dreamed of Braavos, but now he just wants to leave. He tries to find Dareon first around Ragman's harbor, where the foreign boats are moored. Sam tries asking after Dareon, but can't make himself understood. Eventually, he bumps into a couple of would-be Braavos spoiling for a fight. They have just enough common tongue to make their intentions clear, but Sam is saved by a young girl selling cockles. She berates the men and explains that Sam is of the Night's Watch. There's another Night's Watch brother down at the Happy Port.
The men want Sam's cloak and boots, but the girl advises him not to oblige. The men threaten the girl, but she pulls a dagger and they think better of it and leave. The girl explains that wearing a sword at night is a sign that you are open to being challenged by Braavos. She questions his legitimacy as a black brother. She's never seen one like him before. She offers him her remaining clams and he accepts.
She asks if he's traveling to the Wall. He says they're headed for Oldtown and bought passage on the Lady Ushinora. The girl gives him a puzzled look. That ship sailed days ago. Sam is aware. He and Dareon watched as it left the port. The captain was unwilling to wait for Aemon to recover his strength. He was unfortunately also unwilling to return their coin for their passage. Sam asks the girl who she is. No one, is her reply. She used to be someone, but now she's not. But he can call her Cat. She offers to show him to the happy port, but Sam knows the way.
Sam finds Dareon entangled with a woman wearing his black coat and nothing else. The drunk singer is happy to see him. He introduces Sam to his wife and offers to pay for a woman for Sam. He's got the coin. Sam is incredulous. Dareon cannot wed. He said the words. Dareon says the marriage is only for the night. Sam says Dareon promised to bring back food and wine. Aemon has woken and wants news of the dragons. Dareon tells him to quit nagging him. Aemon is dying. Nothing will prevent it, so have a girl or leave.
We'll be right back.
Hello, friends. Are you ready to make some unforgettable memories? Well, if so, consider the Marriott Bonvoy program. Discover the perfect destination for your summer getaway and unlock exclusive deals on luxurious accommodations. With our affiliate partnership, you'll enjoy unbeatable savings and a seamless booking experience. Don't let summer slip away. Visit Marriott Bonvoy today and make this vacation season one for the books. Use our Ghosts of Harrenhal affiliate page to check it all out and buy Bonvoy points or give some as a gift. The link to our page is in the show notes. Sam says he's leaving, and Dareon's coming with him. Dareon pulls his cloak from his wife and throws it at Sam. Dareon's done with the black of the Night's Watch. Soon he'll be in velvet. Without thinking, Sam slugs Dareon, knocking him backward. Sam straddles his brother and pummels him, for once being too angry to be scared. Eventually, someone pulls Sam to his feet, and Sam throws punches at them too. The next thing he knows, he's outside and falling face first into the canal.
Sam flounders in water. He paddles for the surface but realizes he's upside down when he reaches the canal floor. He decides this is the end for him. He worries for Aemon and Gilly, but he is drowned. Suddenly there's a splash and he feels something coil around him. He thinks it must be an eel. When he opens his eyes, he's on his back and a huge summer islander is pounding on his chest. Water erupts from Sam's mouth. The man named Jondo watched the scene unfold inside. He heard Sam mention dragons. He knows of these dragons.
Oh.
So Sam fulfilled half of his mission, really. He was looking for Dareon. He did find him, but he couldn't really bring him back. And he was supposed to find somebody who knew something about the dragons. He got that too. So well done.
And he didn't die.
And he didn't die. Close several times. For me, I find this chapter particularly painful because the feeling of helplessness that Sam must feel as his money dwindles and the situation worsens and there's no end in sight. It's sort of like a death spiral for all of them. You know?
Yes, right.
Apart from Dareon, who's having the time of his life. You know?
Right. Yeah, I mean, you can imagine the rising panic in Sam as they're out of money. Who knows how much longer they're going to be able to keep this room that they have right now.
Right.
And when the innkeep throws him out, what's he going to do with Gilly and her baby and a sick 102-year-old man? I mean, it's really a bad situation. And just the frustration that Dareon could help. He is capable of making money. He's a singer.
He's done it tonight.
Yes. He could really help out, and he's choosing to be selfish and not to. Tough spot.
Yeah. I do wonder if they should tell Dareon why Gilly's so upset, because that might actually help the situation a little bit.
You think?
Dareon doesn't care very much, you know, he's in it for himself. But anyone would have a little bit more understanding. Because the thing is, for him, it's just a young woman who's crying all the time. It would get annoying. Yes. He thought it was because she was scared of being on the sea.
They're not anymore. Yeah.
And that it continues here in the city is like, come on, you know?
Yeah. And you're right. I mean, what harm would it do at this point anyway? You know? It's not like if the news got out at the Wall, that might be a problem. But here with Dareon.
But again, coming back to that, we've asked this question before. He's got to say it. As soon as he's asked, John has to admit it.
Yes, he does, because otherwise they're going to burn Gilly's baby, thinking that it's that he's Dalla's baby.
Exactly. I mean, you can't keep that a secret. I mean, unless you're prepared to sacrifice Gilly's baby just to undermine Melisandre's magic.
Just to prove that it doesn't work.
If Gilly could go back to Jon, I would be saying, and you're definitely going to tell everyone, right? As soon as I'm out of...
Yes. I believe the whole point is to spare a baby's death, not to undermine Melisandre.
I would hope so. I mean, Jon's heart has turned to stone, but surely not that much.
Yeah, that's a whole nother level. Speaking of Jon, I think we talked about this I think we talked about this 2 Sam chapters ago when we learned that he was sending Dareon on to basically replace Yoren as a wandering crow. It seems like he's misjudged Dareon regarding this new role. And on some levels, I think we probably talked about this then as well. I get it. Singing voice, great recruiting tool if used for such a purpose. But I think a requirement of being a roving brother of the Night's Watch is dedication to the Night's Watch.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to imagine that he might... I mean, what is the point of roving the Seven Kingdoms looking for recruits? Pretty much all the recruits are from the jails. That's where they come from. There's not much point singing to them. You might as well be gruff and miserable like Yoren.
With a heart of gold like Yoren.
Exactly, yeah. But Dareon could convince some people who otherwise wouldn't join, so that is definitely in his favor. I will say, I think we're perhaps being a little bit unfair to him, because did Yoren ever come to Braavos?
Oh, probably
you don't
not.
recruit in Braavos.
Yeah.
And the temptations would be great. Right. And so in the Seven Kingdoms, a brother of the Night's Watch, they would let him sing in the brothel one night to make some coin to help the Night's Watch. Sure, why not? But somebody eventually will say, you shouldn't be in here every night. You're a brother of the Night's Watch.
I think you're committing treason.
Exactly.
I believe you're deserting.
Exactly.
Yeah. Speaking of singers recruiting future brothers of the Night's Watch, a lot of people believe that that's what caused Benjen to ultimately end up as a brother of the Night's Watch. During the tourney of Harrenhal, there was a brother there who spoke really passionately about being part of the Night's Watch, and a lot of people think it was that speech that galvanized his thought on.
Do we know which brother it was? Is that known?
I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know if it's known or not. But anyway,
it's kind of funny that Benjen would get the Night's Watch bug in Harrenhal when he lived in Winterfell. The one place you'd expect people to be sort of like pro Night's Watch.
Right. Yeah. But ultimately, it's just too easy to assimilate into normal life and never be heard from again as a roving crow, a wandering crow. Because, I mean, all they have to do is stop at our haberdashery, buy a brown cloak, and just disappear and never be heard from again. Just change your name. There's no social security numbers. There's no DNA or fingerprinting.
Dareon, where are you going? Oh, Braavos. Oh, you'll be wanting a velvet, colourful thing. Yeah, we got just the thing right here.
We'll upsell them.
And Gilly, I mean, we've talked about it in terms of Dareon, but let's talk about it in terms of Gilly. I mean, how do you get out of that? How do you get out of that misery? Especially if she has your kind of thoughts, like, oh, Jon will just let that one bake.
Right, and possibly, I mean, of course, her grief is understandable, and she's never fully going to get over the loss of raising her own son. The best we can hope is that in time she learns to live with the loss, but that will come with believing that her son is in good hands. If her mind's starting to take on the dark ideas that we've been discussing, she's never going to really be able to move on from it.
Yeah. I agree. It's hard to imagine ever getting over it, but I wonder
Right.
how much solace it is to have a similar aged baby, at your breast that that fills the physical missing thing.
Yes.
Compared to someone who loses a baby to death, it would be.
Yes.
I wonder if it's sort of like psychologically you sort of start to obviously she's going to bond with this baby too, maybe not to the same extent, but does that then start building feelings of guilt about the fact that you aren't missing your own baby enough?
Right, and that might start causing feelings of resentment toward Dalla's baby. A lot would just depend on her mindset and how she feels about the whole situation, I guess.
Yeah.
Sam understands her grief because he knows, and he blames it all on Jon. Of course, I don't believe last Sam chapter that Aemon told Sam the reason why, did he? About so that Melisandre doesn't use the king's blood in Dalla's boy?
No, I don't think he said that, but then what else could it be? I mean, why else would you
do the switch?
Yeah.
Yes, I should have looked up.
I just want to make your journey more miserable, Gilly.
I'm going to give you the crying one.
Give you crying, baby, instead.
Not the quiet one. You're going to take the crying one, because I don't want that crying one around here.
Yeah.
That's the whole reason behind it.
Take the colicky one with you, yeah.
He could, he has never broached the subject with Gilly. And he could, but he's too afraid to ask because...
Yeah. But I mean, what's it going to do? It's not going to make her any more upset, and it might help her to have someone to talk to.
Yes, have someone to commiserate with, because Sam spent a lot of time with that baby on the way from Craster's to the Wall, and even after.
I think that's a 21st century mindset we just brought to a problem there, though. You know what I mean? Let's talk about our feelings. Probably not what Sam was taught in the cradle by Randall Tarly, I think.
No, not by Randall Tarly. I don't think so. There's a Titan's roar that wakes, as you mentioned in the summary, that wakes Aemon and the baby, and Sam thinks that it sounds like distant thunder, and that just reminded me of last chapter when Brienne, while on the ship, heard the thunder and thought of the Titan's daughter, and we were discussing why did the thunder make her think of the Titan's daughter, and you were saying it's because that ship's out on the sea and they're safe in port, and I was thinking along the lines of maybe the sound of thunder reminded her of Braavos because of the Titan's roar and all that jazz, and Titan's daughter obviously being a Braavosi ship. So it made me think of that when it happened again in this chapter.
Yep. And also, I think maybe it was just sort of like a lyrical tying together of the two chapters as well.
Partly. Oh, yeah. Could be. Yeah.
Aemon, I think it's pretty clear, is dying. At one point, Sam says he's got death in his lungs, and Aemon himself says that the stranger is waiting outside the door for him, which is the kind of thing that might scare Sam, to be honest.
I think it was the healer that said there was death in his lungs.
Oh, it was the healer that said, yes, you're right.
But Sam basically said the same thing. He told us, in his mind, that that a chill had gotten inside Aemon on the voyage across the narrow sea and settled in his lungs. So, they both basically said the same thing. But it sounds possibly like pneumonia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean...
So...
And that's not good at that age.
No, absolutely not. And I wonder, you remember in that chapter when they were crossing the narrow sea, Aemon convinced Sam to let him stay out in the rainstorm. And I wonder if maybe that's where he picked up this pneumonia.
To be
situation.
fair, he is a brother of the Night's Watch. He can take some pretty cold.
Well, yes. Yeah. You got that, yeah. That we had a comment on one of our episodes on YouTube that said, I was going to comment last chapter on how many times we hear solid point. So I'm trying to think of different ways of saying such things.
So Aemon believes that he's being kept alive for something, and he thinks it's to do with him remembering the dragons. Which, again, Sam makes the point. You don't remember dragons because they died out before you were born, but he's saying that the family, the Targaryen family, do remember dragons, and they dream of them, and for them they are sort of alive in their minds at least. And that's a this is another thing I shouldn't say as often as I do, but that is an interesting point. That because
it's a solid point you make about that interesting point.
Because I wonder if that sort of like if that is a common thing amongst the Targaryens, if that sort of gives you a feeling of vindication as to why you should rule the realm.
Sort of.
You
yeah.
are of the blood
Right.
of the dragon, and you say of the blood of the dragon, big deal. There are Targaryen bastards everywhere. It doesn't mean anything. But if you guys actually dream of dragons and they are realistic in your dreams and they guide you in some way, then that must give you a feeling of sort of like anointed by God for this role, sort of.
We'll be right back.
This episode is sponsored by Audible. To get a free audiobook, or 2 if you're an Amazon Prime member, go to our exclusive URL, audibletrial.com/ghostsharrenhal. You can find the link in our show notes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's what... Yes, they're from the blood of Old Valyria. They're not the only house that's from the blood of Old Valyria. There's also the Valerians and the Celtigars, but the Targaryens separated themselves by being the primary dragon riders. A few Valerians rode dragons, but they were more seafaring. It's the dragons that separated them, and it's the dragons that allowed Aegon and his sister wives to conquer the Seven Kingdoms in the first place. So you could certainly understand how, at the very least, they want to remember so that nobody forgets why the Targaryens are special. You know?
Right. That's true. It could be a self-serving, but if there is some prophecy that they all believe in, which is to do with dragons and to do with them, then sort of reinforcing that to one another could keep the dreams alive. Not instinctively, but sort of like by a process of osmosis, you know.
Yeah. But he also feels, he announces that he's not going to make it to Oldtown, that the stranger's outside the door waiting for him. And he also feels that it was a mistake to leave the wall and that Jon couldn't have known, but he should have seen it coming because fire consumes and ice preserves. And I wondered if he meant that the magic that lies within the wall was keeping him alive for so long, or if possibly just the familiar, comfortable confines sustained him while this difficult journey is killing him.
Yeah. I mean, I sort of read it kind of like both metaphorically and literally simultaneously. I was like, the brothers that dabbled with fire burned out. The one who went to live in the ice was preserved and stuck around for 102 years, you know?
Yes, I like that, yes. Because the very next thing he talks about is his brothers dreamed of dragons and it killed every one of them.
Killed every one of them, exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Now, in between those two sentences, we'll get to that his brothers and dragons in just a second, but he also mentions that, as you said, he dreams of dragons, and some of the things he says about it. One thing is the red bleeding star in the sky, and of course we know that was the comet that was first seen on the night that Dany hatched her dragons in Khal Drogo's funeral pyre. And another thing
I
that
call
he
that
says,
everybody's comet.
Yes,
everybody has their own name for it.
Yes, it's the common comet. But another thing he says is that he sees the shadows on the snow, referring to dragons. And that's not something we've seen regarding Dany's dragons. So I do have an idea of what possibly it could mean that I'm going to mention in spoilers.
Okay.
But as of right now, I can't think of anything that we have any context for in our story that he could be referring to. So now we can talk about his brothers dreamed of dragons and it killed every one of them. And before we start...
Not for the first time tonight, you're going to say the words.
Yes, this is a possible Night of the Seven Kingdoms spoilers that we're about to discuss. Because currently, Night of the Seven Kingdoms, the TV show, is in production. Season 1 has not come out.
Yeah.
Doesn't come out for another year.
So if you listen to this now, you'll have forgotten by the time it comes out. However, if you catch up with this years later, this might be very fresh and a big spoiler.
Yeah, so if you don't want any spoilers at all about A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, take the next few minutes off and also skip background, because I'm going to tell you this again in background. I still get people complaining that I've spoiled House of the Dragon for them with my background. So this time I'm going to be a little more prepared. Anyway, so Aemon had 3 brothers, and we can discuss in what ways they dreamed of dragons and the fate from dreaming of dragons.
So Dareon didn't actually die from dragons, but he did indeed have prophetic dragon dreams. He dreamed that a red dragon would fall dead on Sir Duncan, and the veracity of that little prophetic dream we will talk about in background.
Right, where I can more specifically isolate. If you don't want to hear this, skip to the next chapter.
Yeah.
Now, Aerion Brightflame, which is one of his second oldest brother, we've talked about him in the past. He drank a cup of wildfire thinking it would turn him into a dragon, and surprisingly, it didn't work.
Turned him into a dead person, yeah?
Yes, it did. Yes, that's exactly what happened to him. Now, what you're about to say is a major...
This is a major spoiler, so I will get through it in 10 seconds, okay? Aegon dies in the tragedy at Summerhall. The details are sketchy, but it does seem that he was trying to hatch dragon eggs using wildfire, not the same wildfire that his brother Aerion drank, presumably.
He did, yes.
Come back, everyone.
We're going to try this again. Yes. Aegon was obsessed with dragons, and he thought that reawakening them was the only way to make the realm respect the laws that he had created to protect small folk, right. And it just went terribly. And Aemon also mentions that he dreams of Oldtown with being there with Egg and the big night that he served at the inn that serves strong cider.
We know the inn that serves the strong cider.
Yes, that's the Quillen tankard from the prologue with Pate.
From the prologue.
Yes, and of course he's talking about his brother
Sir
Aegon
Duncan.
And Sir Duncan, exactly. So you can see why he refers to dragons as the grief and glory of his house.
Indeed.
Yes. As I said, they're the lone dragon riders in Westeros, allowed for conquering and maintaining control of the realm, separated them from other houses, all the things that we've talked about. And then as far as the grief, as we see, obsessed with keeping bloodlines pure to maintain the dragon rider status, maybe a bit too much hubris, which caused infighting, which led to the dance of the dragons.
Uh-huh.
And then the loss of all the dragons, and then inbreeding possibly causing Targaryen madness, and now obsessed with returning to being dragon riders.
Aerion Brightflame being a recent example of the madness of the Targaryens, I feel.
Yes, well, also Aerys II, the Mad King.
Much more recent example, indeed. So, to prophecies. So, this is very topical for me because I'm in the middle of second season of House of the Dragon, as you know. I kind of waited for it. And so the prophecy of ice and fire and all the thing that gets sort of talked about a lot in that, basically is foreshadowed here by Aemon, because he says that we are living on the cusp, or trembling on the cusp of half-remembered prophecies, and there are wonders and terrors that no one living can hope to remember even. So this is clearly related to that. Now, I've got to be careful because I could mix up TV show stuff here very easily. But I mean, there is some kind of Targaryen prophecy that says that, well, we've touched on this several times. The prince that was promised, right?
Yes,
Who would,
right.
that's the crux of the ice and fire prophecy, is that there would be this one prince who would unite the two.
Yes, and Rhaegar for a while thought it was him.
Right.
And then he thought it would be his son.
Yep.
And, I think the wonders and the terrors that no one in living memory can, no one living can remember, I'm assuming he's talking about the long night.
I think so too.
And,
but he should talk to old Nan before he says no one remembers it.
That's right.
Because she's got a pretty good handle on what happened.
So, yeah, I mean, he was pretty vague, but I think we can make some assumptions based on what we know so far in the story.
And we skipped over it. You've mentioned it since that Sam did where the money went. I mean, the money has gone to pay for this room, to pay for the crossing that they never took because Aemon was too weak, and also to pay for a healer to come and heal Aemon. But the healer, to his credit, didn't say this is the potion that will fix him. He said, that's a 102-year-old man. He's dying.
Yes, give him some dream wine and let him pass comfortably.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's been plenty of bad decisions. I understand the waiting on the passage, that was not the right time. Unfortunately, they paid before they realized that it wasn't going to happen right then. I mean, Aemon struggled on the voyage from Eastwatch by the Sea to Braavos. The one from Braavos all the way to Oldtown just might be too much.
Yeah.
Now they're stuck, and they can't pay for passage, and Sam's hoping that a Westerosi ship might be their best bet, because maybe if they're Westerosi, they understand what the Night's Watch is all about, and maybe give them some
cheap
sort of
passage.
Yes, cheap or free or, for labor type passage. And I see some sense in that. There's also a sept on Braavos called the Sept Beyond the Sea. And I was thinking possibly they might offer some charity for Night's Watch brothers.
Yeah, but they're probably not rolling in it either. I mean, the only people who would come there are Westerosi sailors, and I'm not sure that they're the most God-fearing. Yes,
and I believe it's a pretty small sept compared to a lot of the other larger temples. So yeah, maybe it wouldn't be. But it's some financial mismanagement that put them in this bad spot. A room with a bed to sleeps 8, and then they paid double for a room with a hearth, and then couldn't afford to buy firewood.
I got the feeling they could initially, but then the money went.
That ran out too fast. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now they didn't understand that trees don't grow on Braavos. Although Sam did read a book about Braavos. He mentions it, so maybe.
But
I guess he forgot.
That's a detail that might not be there. Sort of like. And if you want a fire, you have to ship in some wood.
Yeah, but as we mentioned, Dareon could rescue them if he cared to, singing for coin. But he sings for coin and then spends it on women and alcohol.
Yeah, I mean that's a real problem, because the only way they can afford, I mean, I would assume they're going to need something to pay for passage, even if they find a Westerosi captain so grateful for their Night's Watch service that he's willing to give them passage across. He's going to want them to pay for food at least, so they're going to need something, and that means they're really beholden to Dareon, and he doesn't want to go. He's found his niche in the world, and he ain't leaving. So but he might pay Sam. He might say, here, Sam, have this pouch of silver, and the 3 of you get out of here and never mention my name again.
Yes, and I had a very similar thought that, okay, I can't entirely say that I don't understand where Dareon's coming from, thinking, I'm on a new continent. He maintains his innocence in the crime that got him sent to the wall in the first place. I can't say that I entirely don't understand. But
yes,
got...
I entirely understand, honestly.
Yes, you've got two of your brothers and a woman with a baby, one of your brothers being a sick elderly man. Help them get off to sea and say to Sam, I'm not coming. I'm sorry.
Right.
Best of luck to you. Here's...
Sam might punch you on the nose, but he's not going to drag you on the ship.
Right. So I just feel like he could have helped. And, maybe he will. The chapter ended with, Sam punching him, but, maybe he's drunk. He'll sober up and say, you know what, I'm wrong. We'll see.
Yeah.
But there was other ways to go about it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. More sympathy for Gilly being frightened and lost in the big city.
Yeah.
She's probably crying as she walked to the fountain to get the water, and then she got turned around and she got lost, and Sam found her hours later. I mean, she must have been absolutely distraught by then.
Yeah.
To be fair to Sam and Aemon, their time with the baby must have been pretty fraught as well.
Two men and a baby.
Exactly.
Yeah, I had wondered what her thoughts of a big city like Braavos would be. I mean, she's only seen Castle Black and Eastwatch by the Sea, and she was pretty impressed with them. This must be mind-blowing culture shock here.
She has seen 100,000 wildlings gathered together, though, so,
Oh, well, yeah.
So, just the city, yes, but the number of people is not... It's unusual for her, but she has seen it. Maybe she didn't.
I don't know that she got up to the top of the wall to
Interesting.
Actually see. So,
Interesting, yeah.
And I don't think Craster really mixed with the other wildlings very
certainly
much.
Not. So. He certainly wouldn't have invited 100,000 of them round.
No.
He was cheap with his largesse, that fella.
Yes.
So Sam straps on his sword belt to go and find Dareon, and that's what his book should have said.
Yes, right.
Don't take your sword with you. You're incompetent with a sword anyway. It will just trip you up.
Yeah, anyone who's on their second or more reread through this saw the foreshadowing, knew, oh, there it is right there. He's strapping, because it was such a minor detail. He's telling Gilly, bar the door when I leave, thinking the stranger is on the other side of it, and just straps on his sword belt. But that was what got him into trouble.
Do you think he's losing weight? I thought the sword belt was sort of like sliding down a little bit. So
yes, I think he hasn't recovered his weight from the voyage across the sea.
Yeah,
and you notice he still has that hanging next to his sword on the hook was that battered old horn from the cache of dragon glass that Ghost found on the Fist of the First Men.
Did notice that.
What a weird thing to take on such a journey.
Yes.
I thought maybe he was bringing it to give to the Citadel, but it's just an old broken horn. So I guess maybe a memento to remind him of John? But I don't know.
I did notice it,
but
I wasn't sure if it meant anything. And he met Arya. He didn't know it. She didn't know that he met that she was meeting someone who had met two of her brothers.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. He met Bran. I forgot about that.
Bran. Yeah, he's collecting them. If he'd only known.
Yeah,
and so,
right.
yes, I will say, you did say that this was going to happen, and not everything you say in spoilers turns out to be false. So, hurrah.
Yeah, see? I'm not always just making things up.
It's called spoilers, not random conjectures.
Yes. I thought it would have been interesting to have Arya's POV as well. I wonder, she knows he's a brother of the Night's Watch. Did she struggle internally with not asking him about John?
Yeah. I thought the same thing. How is she not asking that?
Yes.
But she's really trying to embrace the no one. But she must have been like, hey, would you know a kid called Jon Snow, maybe?
Yeah.
And imagine if she'd asked.
Yes.
Sam would have been like, do I?
That jerk has this crying baby with me his whole time.
He might have focused on the positive first.
Oh, that
the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, no less.
Yes. Right.
And that would have given a real boost to her to hear that.
And asking the question would have been a setback. on being no one, like you mentioned, but how many chances is she going to get to ask a Brother of the Night's Watch about her brother John? I mean, you might just have to,
like a chapter ago, she would have asked.
Right.
Yes. But she's embraced the cat, and she is no longer being Arya, so she can't even ask.
Yeah.
So
she does tell the backstory that the kindly man worked up for her about her father being an oarsman, killed by a Bravo, put off, and then she was put off the ship by a captain because he doesn't want a little girl on the ship. Although she took it a little bit of a step further, and it does show a little bit of her unfortunate mindset, is that she mentioned she plans to kill the non-existent Bravo who killed her father, her made-up father. So, she needs to talk to someone, work through these issues.
So Dareon, when he finds him, says that he's got enough coin for Sam to have a woman. Sam knows the reality of life, but this is really frustrating and annoying to Sam to see Dareon so drunk and paying for prostitutes, while the four of them, huddle in the cold of their room, hoping that Dareon will come home.
Galling. It's galling.
Yeah, I can see why. I mean, I have quite a bit of Sam in me, and one of the things I have is I'm a lover, not a fighter. But Dareon's getting a punch on the nose for that from me too.
And he has the audacity to tell Sam that Sam wasted all their silver on the healer.
Yeah.
Wow, he did, but
he did.
Just seeing Dareon here, drunk and so happy and just carefree. Oh, yeah. I would have probably wanted to punch him right there before he says, "I'm not coming back."
Yeah. So the one thing is, I mean, I think maybe they won't talk to each other ever again. Maybe Dareon will never come back, but I do hope he does, because he can help Sam get out of here. But punching him on the nose probably hasn't helped the chances of that happening, I feel.
No, unless maybe it will wake Dareon up.
True.
And he'll realize what a jerk he's been. And like I said, no one can necessarily stop him at this point from leaving. It's just Sam. And he's not going to stop him. But he could help. He could do the plan that we talked earlier.
Yeah.
Help them get off and then leave.
Do you think that it was Dareon who threw him in the canal, or do you think it was like the bouncers?
Yeah, I think it was like bouncers. I don't think Dareon probably had the strength to carry Sam and throw him in the canal.
Fortunately, who had the strength was Jondo, who was able to pull him out of the water and then pump the water out of his lungs. He's a sailor from the Cinnamon Wind. Have we heard that name before?
We have, but it's been a while. It's been a couple books since we've
There's no way we've heard of the Cinnamon Wind before. We have.
Do you remember when Dany first... I knew
There's
the
a
answer
question,
to
sorry.
that. Why did I ask that? When Dany first got to Karth, and Jorah brought her a captain of a ship. His name was Kuharu Mo, was the ship captain's name. Yeah. And he told Dany about Robert Baratheon's death.
Right.
And Dany wanted to pay him, I believe. Now I'm testing my memory here. Dany wanted to pay him, and he said, "No, I've had my payment. I have seen dragons, real life dragons." Captain Kuharu is the captain of the Cinnamon Wind.
So Jondo doesn't have it firsthand. He has not seen the dragons, but his own captain saw the dragons with his eyes.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, there we go. Well, good stuff. Thanks for all that, Mackelly. All right. If you join us at the upper tiers of our sustainer levels, you get to listen to the spoiler section next, which is a spoiler for everything, not just for the things we don't mean to spoil. All right, good spoilers. Now, background. I will both say it, but I'll say it first. Skip background if you don't want spoilers for A Night of the Seven Kingdoms.
Yes. Skip. I painstakingly put chapter markers into every episode, so just go to the chapter marker for a comparison with the TV show and keep on moving if you don't want
It
to
would be
hear the
quite
spoilers.
funny if I started comparing with the TV show with something like, an egg died, how?
So Maester Aemon realizes that he's dying and hopes to be reunited with his brothers and his father when the time comes. And he tells Sam that his father never thought the throne would pass to him, and that it doing so was his punishment for the blow that killed his brother. So, what happened there? Well, Aemon's father was Maekar the First Targaryen, and it was the fourth son of King Dareon II, also known as Dareon the Good. Maekar had 3 older brothers, Baelor, Aerys, and Rhaegal. With 4 sons and plenty of grandsons, it was actually King Dareon who decided that Aemon should be sent to the Citadel to become a maester. So there's that. It was actually a move that Maekar, his father, was not on board with, but the king says, it happens. Well, Prince Baelor, the Maekar's oldest brother, was the Prince of Dragonstone and eventually Hand of the King for his father, and many expected him to become a great king in time. However, then came the fateful tourney at Ashford Meadow. Maekar's son Aerion attacked a group of puppeteers for a show involving dragons, and Sir Duncan the Tall defended them, leading to a trial by 7. House Targaryen was represented on both sides of the trial, with Maekar and his son Dareon on Aerion's side, while Maekar's brother and heir to the throne, Baelor, supported Duncan. During the battle, Maekar struck Baelor in the head with a mace. Duncan's side won, but the blow turned out to be a fatal one as Prince Baelor died in Duncan's arms. There is the prophetic dream that Dareon had, that a red dragon would fall dead.
Red dragon
Duncan
would fall dead, and
Maekar he's a good man, and he took the accidental death of his brother very hard, and in fact he marked its anniversary yearly and never really got over it, as you might imagine one would.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the part about how him becoming king was the punishment for killing his brother. Now I'm going to tell you about how he never thought it was going to come to him in the first place. When King Dareon died during the Great Spring Sickness, his second son Aerys ascended to the throne, making his younger brother Rhaegal his heir. However, Rhaegal choked while eating a lamprey pie and died. So Rhaegal's son Aelor then became the heir, until he died in a mishap at the hands of his twin sister and wife, Elora, who in turn became Aerys' heir, until she took her own life, having been driven mad with grief over her role in the death of her brother/husband Aelor. So that left Maekar as the last man standing and heir to his brother Aerys. And when Aerys died, Maekar became king. So you can see why Aemon said his father never expected to wear the crown. It was quite the windy path
Long
to
shot.
get to him. Yes.
Yep.
Which is why his brother Egg was called Aegon the Unlikely, because he was the 4th son of a 4th son.
Right. All right, thanks. The comparison with the television show, there's nothing really to compare here. The ship that Gilly and Sam were on went straight to Oldtown, and I think I have mentioned before that Maester Aemon died at the wall in the TV show. Bit of a spoiler, because he's probably going to die in the book too, but he is 102 and sickly. There is no baby swap, remember, because there was no second baby, there was no Dalla, so there was no second baby. So the baby is Gilly's. So all the way through the journey, Gilly is the happy jolly one, and Sam is the miserable one because he's seasick.
Yes.
Pedantry Corner. I have a little one. It doesn't matter very much, and it's only slightly pedantic. But have you ever met a woman who has a baby who doesn't get annoyed when a noise wakes up that baby?
I know women, and I know me.
Me too. But
Yes.
I'm thinking the mothers would spend the most time with the babies, right? So they would be the ones most affected by that bloody Titan blowing his horn to say it's going dark. We can all see it's going dark.
Right.
You don't
You
need
to tell. Our eyes are telling, maybe,
Exactly.
it's for, those who
They
are.
would be up in arms. They would tear down that statue if that thing went off every night.
There
I'm
would
just saying.
certainly be petition after petition signed to.
Exactly. No way.
We don't need it all the time. Really, only when there's an attacking army. That's the only time we need it to roar.
Every time a boat comes between its legs and every time the sun sets. Really?
Right. This is a busy port. Do you know how often?
Exactly. How about have a little flute or something and just go...
The Titan's flute.
News and notes. George Martin had a Q&A in Oxford and he was asked if he had any regrets about the books. And he told the story of Gene Wolfe, a writer that he admires. Gene Wolfe had a day job while he was writing his novels. And so he wrote a 4-book series and only revealed them to his publisher when all 4 were complete. And Gene Wolfe talked about his writing process, and he said as he was nearing the end of the 4th book, he went back to the first book and rewrote parts of it that no longer made sense.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I could see the appeal in that.
Mm-hmm. George Martin said, I would have loved to do that, but, I had to pay the bills, so the first book had to get published.
Right.
But he never said what it was he regretted. But clearly he was pointing to the fact that he did regret some things. And this got the Reddit people all speculating about what it was that he was regretting. And there were 2 things. I mean, one is just sort of funny. It's Tyrion's acrobatics at Winterfell.
Oh, yes. Yeah. In the first John chapter of A Game of Thrones. You commented on it in Pedantry.
I did at the time, but that doesn't matter particularly. But apparently, and I'd never heard this before, his plan for the books was that there would be a 5-year hiatus. Well, not in the writing. That was.
He's far surpassed that.
The books would have a 5-year gap to allow the dragons and the Stark children to grow up.
Okay. Yeah.
And because of other factors, he abandoned that plan. And now the dragons are too small and the Starks are too young for where he wants them to be for the story.
Right. Well, he could do a 5-year gap now, I guess.
He could do a 5-year gap. I mean, the thing is, he's got so many storylines going, though, that he decided he couldn't do the 5-year gap because those storylines couldn't wait 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely. When we get to the end of A Dance with Dragons, if we don't have a Winds of Winter, we'll see exactly why there's some storylines that are problematic for that.
Yeah.
And hey, I want to give you some props. You're coming to the rescue this weekend.
Just doing what you do every week. I don't deserve any praise.
I said to Simon this morning, I don't think I'm going to be able to put out an early episode for our Buy Me a Coffee sustainers because I'll be traveling and, I'm not going to have the opportunity to do it. And Simon stepped in and said, I'll do it. So
I did. Yeah.
Yes. And so now tomorrow.
Mostly a big-headed, I can do anything. I'm a genius. I remember that's exactly what I said.
It is what you said. Yes. You did mention being a genius. Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for filling in.
If you're hearing this on Wednesday, you'll know I messed up.
And we don't have a review to read today. So you know those ad spaces that just say, put your ad here? We'll just say, put your review here. If you'd like a review read, we are caught up. So post a review and we will read it. As long as it's 5-star glowing review, of course.
Yeah, if you don't think we should talk about ourselves, and give us 3 stars, that ain't going to get read out. It's going to get talked about, but it's not going to get read out.
That's right, yes.
Let's conclude this one. Is Maester Aemon truly dying? Could the news that he learns of the dragons give him a second wind or 102nd wind?
102nd wind. Obviously at his age and in the position, his level of health, it is very possible that he is dying. It would be sad to lose such a cherished character and such a, in a story that has so many troubled souls. he's
he is a
true
good one.
joy. Yes,
Yeah.
so it would be sad to lose him.
Yeah.
So I hope not. But is Dareon truly done with the Night's Watch, or was this just drunken bravado and annoyed at Sam and not the others with a capital O, but his travel companions?
I think he might be done. I think he knows that when he crosses the narrow sea again, it will never be as good again. This is as good as it's ever going to get for him. So I think he's going to stay.
Yeah. I mean, he is in the place where Westerosis go to hide. They go to the free cities. They go to Essos. He could so easily disappear, change his cloak, and no one would ever know what happened to him.
But that is one thing he will need to do, because assuming Sam, Aemon, Gilly do get across to Oldtown, Sam is going to send a raven to the wall and say, Dareon deserted. So, and I'd left him in the following brothels in Braavos.
Right. Yes, that is true. Now, whether Jon would use the manpower to go hunting him or not, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, in regular days, I'm pretty sure he would. I'm sure he would send note to White Harbor to say, hey, next time you send a ship over to Braavos, there's a deserter you need to bring back. Yeah. So Sam and company, as we've said, are in a major pickle. They're running out of money hand over fist, and they've got to get back to Oldtown. Let's hope they can be real nice to this Shandor fella.
Yeah, or, maybe Sam could sell cockles.
That's true. They have to sell a lot of cockles, I feel.
Yes, I think so. So, yeah, I mean, they're stuck. And we'll have to see if they can get unstuck and what gets them unstuck. But they're in a rough spot right now. Yeah.
And it might be, for Aemon, it might be a nice final thing to hear of dragons returning to the world. He's a Targaryen. They mean something. Dragons mean something to them.
Absolutely. And if he truly is dying and this is the last bit of news he hears, at least it will be one that hopefully warms his heart on his way out.
Yeah. On the subject of characters so pure you could see through them, we got Jaime next time.
Yeah, that's right. And Cersei has a mission for him, so you want to tune in and see what that is.
Presumably, it involves him getting out of her sight.
Oh, it just might. Might.
As always, there's 3 ways that you can help us. You could leave us a positive review. You could buy us a cup of Arbor Gold at buymeacoffee.com/ghostharrenhall. You could join us there at any of the various sustainer levels. There's a tier to match your budget and interest, and the upper tiers get you the spoiler section, which, believe me, I learn something new every week from the spoiler section. Or relearn something new every week. Lastly, you could make a donation directly to us at our website, ghostsofharrenhall.buzzsprout.com.
And if you're looking for more ways to interact with us, well, first off, you can send us a text message. We got a few really nice messages this week. Just remember, we cannot reply, unfortunately. There's a link at the top of every one of our episodes that says, send us a text or something along those lines. But if you're looking to keep up on the latest Ghosts of Harrenhal news and developments, well, then I suggest you check us out on our social medias. You can follow us on Twitter at Ghost Harrenhal. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Discord, and YouTube.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.